Welcome back to day 2 of How Did This Become My Life? I am Media with F2 and F3 this weekend at Spa. And Friday was really a masterclass in learning how to roll with the punches. We started out with my daily commute this weekend, which starts with a train through Narnia. But if you notice the cloud cover that you're seeing here, that actually comes into play in a little bit. After the train, I took the very packed shuttle bus to the track, which then from there, you still have to walk about 45 minutes to get to F2. But as you can tell, the commute is not keeping me down. I'm having a great weekend. Friday was full of on-track action and interviews, but also a big problem that started out in the morning. The first session of the day was actually postponed, and that was an F3 practice session. And the reason it was postponed was because of that cloud cover. There was no visibility, so the helicopter couldn't get in the air safely. But obviously, when F3 is racing, other championships are racing too, which means that the schedule is a really fine-tuned situation. So the real question is, what happens when something like this goes down? It just so happened that I already had an interview scheduled with the exact person you would ask this question, the director of operations for both F2 and F3. And it was really interesting to learn so much about the nuances of what goes into each of these decisions when things like this come up. I'm super excited to share that whole interview with you guys, so make sure you're following along for that later on. And then I also wanted to show you guys what it looks like when we set up one of these sessions for the cars to go on track. Because F3 is not actually in a garage setup, they're in tents that are in the F3 paddock. This is how the cars get prepared to go on track. All of them get lined up, and then eventually the drivers come and join their cars. But as you can see, F3 is a much larger grid than you may be used to. There are 10 teams on the grid, and each of those teams has 3 drivers, so you can imagine how long it took to get from one end to the other. Managing this also takes a lot of skill and precision because there are obstacles when they're bringing these cars around, both to go out and come back in from the session. Outside of on-track action, I also had a couple of other interviews, one with a driver, which as you can see, our height difference was quite the icebreaker, and one with the CEO of F2 and F3 to talk about sustainable fuel. This year, both F2 and F3 use 100% sustainable fuel, and I got to learn a ton about how that process came together and also the steps that may come after it to advance this technology even further. Also, this stretch of Eau Rouge is really close to the F2 paddock, so this was my view for a ton of the sessions. And so far, it's just been incredible to not only talk to drivers or mechanics, but also to have time to speak with the CEO of F2 and F3 and the director of operations and drivers and team managers. So many people have taken time to talk to me and teach me a little bit about the different things going on in F2 and F3. And the truth of the matter is both of these championships are doing things to move the sports forward. Yesterday we talked about the Anyone Can Drive program, but today 100% sustainable fuel. There are things that F2 and F3 are doing that could make changes in other championships. And I'm so excited to get to share everything that I learned in depth with you after we get back from this weekend. But for now, be sure to come back tomorrow so that you can join me on my very first grid walk, podium celebration, and Parc Ferme. And as you've been following along this weekend, have you learned anything about F2 and F3? And do you have any other questions about both of these championships?